I have to wonder, did Strahd name the areas of Castle Ravenloft before or after he became a vampire? Come and eat in the Hall of Bones. Get your room service fulfilled by the larders of ill omen. Come get a good night's rest in the rooms of weeping. I just don't see these invitations being a very big draw, you know? We're going to talk about the Rooms of Weeping today and figuring out what we can do there to make your game experience better. We're going to amp up the deadliness factor of it. We're going to change around some of the social aspects, and we are going to add in one hell of a surprise for anybody who wants to plunder the Treasury. Our first change comes in area K35, the Guardian Vermin area. Now, the big thing that stood out to me in this room was the doorway. This big, ornate silver door. It received such an interesting description in the module, and I really wanted to capitalize upon that. So when your party enters in from K35 to K36, they're not going to see the old decrepit banquet hall as it's described in the module, at least not at first. They are instead going to receive a vision of the past. They're going to see the banquet hall as it was on the day of Sergei and Tatiana's wedding. There's going to be waiters gliding to and fro with platters of drink and hors d'oeuvres. There's going to be guests milling about, talking to each other, having jovial conversations, none of which are discernible. All the conversation is very murmurous, but what your party can make out is a beautiful tune being played on the harp in the southwest corner by a bard. She is playing just this amazing music that lifts the spirits, makes them happy, and then it all just kind of disappears. It can also disappear if your party tries to interact with any of the wedding guests or any of the food or whatnot. But at some point, this vision of the past fades and it's replaced by a description of the dining hall as it is in the module. Before we get on to that next area, you can get the full written version of this guide and all of the other Lunch Break Heroes guides over on Patreon for just as little as $1. These are all beautifully typeset PDFs that are yours to download and keep forever. So if you like these guides and you want to see more of them or you want to take them with you, definitely check it out. You'll be in good company. Over 1,000 people have already pledged and gotten these guides to download and keep. So go ahead, head over there, check it out, and support the channel. If you don't want to do that, that is perfectly fine. Click the subscribe and the bell down below, and we'll see you back here next time. All of that being said, let's move on with that next area. In area K36, we have a couple of changes in store for you. The DOS loot has been moved to Escher's Crypt in area K84, and we have a new encounter to this area. Well, it's kind of new. We've taken it from 3.5e. It's a Crypt Chanter. You can find the stat block for this custom monster down below. The Crypt Chanter sits in the southwest corner playing the harp. She looks a lot like the bard that was playing at Sergei and Tatiana's wedding, except she's a lot more dead and a bit more ghostly. She's not hostile by any means, at least at first. When she first sees the party, she's gonna hit them with her Song of Sorrow ability and try to charm them. If they ignore her and begin to move to another exit, her songs become much more angry and forceful as she tries to get their attention. They can, of course, leave the room and ignore the Crypt Chanter. She's not going to outright attack them. However, if the party does physically confront the Crypt Chanter, she will return in kind. They can also appease her and give her the audience and the joviality that she misses from life by joining in with her song and succeeding on a DC 15 performance check. This can be done with any musical instrument that your party has in their inventory. If they fail that check, she will become hostile and try to, shove a flute up their you-know-what. We're going to hop on over to area K39, the Hall of Webs. This is an area that's described as being filled with spider webs from ceiling to floor, and just not a very fun place to traverse. There's a couple of changes in here, one of them being that we have removed the secret door to area K31B, because we've removed the elevator trap entirely. If you don't want to remove it, that's fine, keep the door, no harm done. but in our guide we've gone ahead and nixed that. The other change is more flavor text. I think there should be spiders in here. Lots of them. Thousands of them, in fact, but they should be itty-bitty baby spiders. These are what will actually become the giant spiders that populate the treasury area eventually, the ones that don't get eaten, you know. When your party first opens the door to the area, describe light flowing into the area and illuminating all of these spider webs, but also being reflected back at them thousands of times over in these tiny little pinpricks of light as thousands upon thousands of baby spiders look at your party for just a heartbeat and then skitter away into the darkness. As they move through, as your party moves through the area, all the spider webs move and undulate as this wave of baby spiders tries to get out of their way and out from underfoot and begins to move towards the other end of the hall before scurrying under the door into the treasury area. This next one's kind of a cross between Area K40, the Belfry, and Area K41, the Treasury. One of the big problems I had with the Treasury is that it was a Dairn's instant fortress, which is kind of a cheap thing to do, I think. In all the other previous editions of Ravenloft, the Treasury was always just a normal part of the castle. Your party could get into it and get to the treasure. It was possible. With the Dairn's instant fortress, the only way they could really feasibly get into it is through the arrow slits in the roof. I wanted to make this area a bit more accessible and a bit more interesting to get into. Sure, it's a normal part of the castle, but it is by no means easy to access. I need a new LED strip. This just happened. Spontaneously, apropos of nothing. I didn't touch a single button. In fact, this remote doesn't even have a battery in it. What the f? Area K40, we still have the door to the treasury hidden behind a whole bunch of cobwebs. You still have to possibly deal with the spiders, you still have to find the door. But once you find it, all you have to do now is get past the door and you're in the treasury. The big trick here is actually getting past the door. Strahd is not going to have just a normal door guarding his entire horde. What's here is actually a large iron door with an irregular surface. Anybody who examines this door closely will notice that in the door's surface are what looks to be faces. 6 of them to be exact, with closed eyes and closed mouths. When somebody tries to tamper with the door's lock, either physically or magically, the iron covering of the door melts away and the faces are revealed. These are some of Strahd's victims that were once trying to plunder the treasury, trying to rob the castle at some point, and he has now transformed them into this complex trap in order to deter other people from trying to do the same. This complex trap is called the Door of Faces. It acts on initiative counts 20 and 10. When the eyes open up, they begin to glare at a single character and cast Dominate Person on them. The mouths open up, begin to bark obscenities, and cast Vicious Mockery. If any character takes an action within 30 feet of the door can taunt them and cause confusion as a reaction. Any player that starts their turn within a certain radius has to have a wisdom save or become confused for the rest of their turn. It's an extremely befuddling trap. That, in conjunction with all of the spiders that might be in this area that are probably going to be lured by all the shouting and the yelling of the door, makes this an extremely difficult and deadly encounter for pretty much any party. The door can be dealt with by dealing with both the eyes and the mouths. The eyes have to be gouged out, or it has to be otherwise blinded, and the mouths have to be stuffed with some sort of cloth or whatever, or otherwise muted. Once that's done, you can deal with the lock in any way that you see fit. Once the lock is picked, of course, this just becomes a normal door that you can enter into, to and fro, and you can plunder the treasury to your heart's content, or at least anybody that actually survived this particular encounter. Next up, area K42, the King's Bedchamber. This is where your party will find Gertruda, who, as we have stated several times before, is no longer a teenager. We've aged her up to about 30 years old. You can get all of the information you need to run Gertruda in our Cast of Ravenloft video right up there in the corner. Here we have area K43, the Bath Chamber, the home of Verushka, the maid who did not want to become a vampire spawn. Verushka eventually killed herself rather than let Strahd take her, and her spirit has been trapped in Castle Ravenloft ever since. I'm not really certain that things worked out for her. It seems like a pretty raw deal. But in the module, she is so criminally underdeveloped. She pops out of the bathtub, clings to the ceiling, and scuttles away only to disappear? That's not cool. If there's any centerpiece to the Rooms of Weeping, Verushka is it, in my opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to make her a presence throughout this entire area. Your party will be able to encounter her no matter where they are in this area. We have an entire table that you can find down below of haunts that Verushka can inflict upon your party both before they reach the bath chamber and after. This ranges from bloody footprints to actually attacking them. Verushka is not necessarily a hostile spirit presence within the Rooms of Weeping. She just really doesn't have any tolerance for fools that come here to take on Strahd. And she's got even less tolerance for fools like Gertruda that throw themselves at him willingly. Next up we have area K44, the closet. Yep, just a closet of clothes. That's what we're talking about here. But what we've done is made this into kind of a trap. The clothes in this area are intended for Tatiana's use and hers only. Anybody that takes a garment from the rack in this area is cursed. Their right hand begins to turn black from the fingertips down to the wrist. And this happens over the course of about 24 hours, after which the hand is dead and falls right off. This mirrors the punishment of thievery in Barovia, the loss of one's hand. All of this comes into play back in area K42 with Gertruda. Now, although she has been warned not to touch any of the clothes in the closet, she just can't freaking help herself, can she? Well, earlier today, she decided to go in there, grab a dress off the rack, try it on, look pretty, enact her fairy tale delusions and all of that, and her hand is not looking so good. When your party first encounters her, her fingertips are black. And she tries to hide it, but with a sufficient perception check, your party can easily see what's going on, and they might even be able to discern what has happened. Gertruda might even tell them with a sufficient persuasion check. So the question becomes, is your party going to help her out by casting Remove Curse or Greater Restoration, or will they just kind of leave her to her own little dumb fate?